Hi, this is George from Meanwhile the Podcast, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
If they don't go for this, we're going to have to get out of here pretty quick, Chewie.
Everything's going to be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're going to meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Adam Marks of Garbage Chute Droids joins us once again to talk about what he's been doing with the latest set of Garbage Chute Droids, and a great card talk as well. I really enjoyed this one. We'll be back with more of my conversation right after we take care of a little bit of homestead keeping. Stay tuned.
You can waste time with your friends when your chores are done. Now, come on, get to it.
All right, just a few things in homestead keeping, and because I kind of feel it is my job. I have one job, right? I talk about cards. I should let you know about this kind of stuff. But we're coming down to the end of 2024, and for releases, it's been pretty light this year. I was going back through, and we had basically 3 releases. We had Topps Chrome Sapphire The Phantom Menace, which was more of an online purchase back in May. We had Topps Chrome Star Wars in August. There was a high-tech preview at New York Comic Con in October, as well as the Top Star Wars Galaxy Chrome that debuted late October 25th. The high-tech itself looks like it got pushed back to January 8th, and I talked about that a couple of episodes ago, where that's another one of those where it's a little higher price box. There's not that many cards per, I think there's like 1 pack per box, one of those kind of things. So it's a little more of a high-end set. So no Masterwork 2024 yet. I got a feeling it maybe, hopefully, it gets released sometime next year. I know over the COVID years, the release date got kind of pushed all around. But otherwise, if you looked at 2023, we had about 11 releases in 2023. And so this is a pretty lean year for Star Wars releases. And so that kind of kept the value a little high. I'm not against necessarily trimming back. I thought that Galaxy was probably the nicest looking set this year. Of course, with the Chrome Star Wars, those were mostly portraits. Plus, you had the debut cards, which were really kind of cool. And everybody kind of went after the super factors. And of course, because it was the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, we had a Chrome Sapphire one. I got a couple of those in. Those were really nice looking cards. It might be something I might kind of go back, kind of like the Chrome Sapphire we got for Return of the Jedi that I kind of was poking at and picking up here and there, but it was not necessarily a big priority. I did end up going over a number of the throwback sets for this year, and they were really nice, especially last few weeks when we had some 1986 baseball looking ones. I just looked on the Topps website as I'm recording this on the 14th, and I think there'll probably be 1 or 2 more sets, but they were looking like kind of a New Hope. And if I sneak over there, let me go back and look at that Throwback Thursday, because I think it's a new, every 3 or 4 weeks they kind of change the design of what throwback card they're going to use. And it looks like for these last ones, they're going for the 1959 top set. And you had a Yavin, Luke, Han Solo, and Boba Fett. So it pretty much can't go wrong with those. And, sometimes some of the newer ones, they're okay. But I did get a Bowman one recently where I got a numbered variant, and that's kind of the nice thing about these is if you can, every now and then they'll just throw in a random numbered variant, or there is a short print alternate photograph on the card. So those are kind of nice, and for basically $15 for 3 cards, and you can get free shipping if you don't mind waiting a couple 3 weeks. they're not bad, and it's kind of fun to pick up, and it's something that if you like the characters or you're a character collector or you're just looking for a little more of a casual chase, I see, just like the year before, if they do it again in 2025, they'll probably restart the numbering, just kind of like they do with the Tops now and so forth. But I dig them, and you should check it out on Tops.com. All right, we did get a release date and some preview cards for the next release of Star Wars Unlimited. That is the Jump to Lightspeed, which we kind of figured was more ship-heavy. That looks like it's going to drop in March, around the 14th. I haven't even had a chance to look at too much of the Twilight of the Republic cards or get a chance to play because they released it in November, and with the holidays, it's really tricky to get and play a little bit. I hope you've been enjoying Greg and I as we've been kind of breaking down the Skeleton Crew. It's a really good series, and we just did our show on episode 3, and the release calendar is going to be a little crazy for the rest of the year because of the holidays. So I know the shows will still do them, but it'll just be around everybody's schedule and yours too. Hey, you got things you got to do for the holidays as well. But I'm enjoying the series so far. You can also check me out on Fantatrax. I was able to join the review pool thanks to Mark Newbold over there at Fantatrax for including me in, and it was fun. I just threw up my review for the episode 3, so I'm enjoying that so far, trying to get the writing thing going again. All right, Steam into Star Wars, that'll be the next event for me, will be on Saturday, January 11th. That's downstate here in Washington, Illinois. I'll be doing a show on the podcast floor, so it'll be a live show to record. But pretty soon we'll probably be having Tom Gross from Coffee with Kenobi, as well as Teachers in the Dungeon, to do our annual Steam preview to talk about what's happening. That show is expanding a little bit. Last year or earlier this year, they had a whole gaming wing, which was really, really rad. And so I've been kind of working on the badge designs. I've been able to do them the last couple of years, and the badges I'm doing for them this year, they're looking good. I'm kind of excited. Speaking of which, I also finished I got the last swag card in for the ones I'll be handing out next year at cons and whatnot. Just working on the final wrapper design, but these are Empire Strikes Back theme, and they look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this set, and so I can't wait to start wrapping them up and getting them out to folks when I go to cons and whatnot. If you looking for a swag pack, you can always hit me up. Slide into the DMs, as it were, and then we can probably work something out. Not that bad. Although I don't normally talk about the figures so much, I was excited to see Hasbro released a preview image of their next of the retro line, which I like because they're the 3 3/4 inch and they're designed like the old Kenner Star Wars figures. But the one that really caught my eye was they're finally doing a Rebel Fleet Trooper. And I don't know why this wasn't in the old 77s, because it's a perfect one to kind of throw up against the Imperial Stormtroopers and Darth Vader. And the 7-year-old in me is like, thank you, finally, you're going to do a Rebel Fleet Trooper. But they were also doing, you're doing a Sand Trooper. I know you had Walrus Man and Doc, I forget what his name is. But all of them looked pretty good. There's they had 6 of them there. And I was kind of excited about that. And I don't know whether you have to buy the whole set. Sometimes they sell them in groups of 6. I hope not, because I really just want I actually probably want like 2 Fleet Troopers now, to be honest with you, because you got to buy them in pairs, maybe even more. But if they sell them singles, I could see a couple of them dropping. And who wouldn't want that? Right? You get the 1 to open, 1 to display, and 1 just in case, right? If we get the old SNL skit. But I could see a couple of them dropping pretty easy if I'm able just to get those. And who knows? I may just drop. I think the whole set usually runs around, $100? So, all right. I have to make some decisions, but at any rate. All right. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. I think that's about it for Homestead Keeping. Adam was on... It's amazing when I looked back, and Adam Marks was on way back around this time about 3 years ago on episode 105 when we first had a chance to talk together. And he was on just recently when I talked to artist Stefan Leonardi on episode 170, because Adam had a chance to go to New York Comic Con and brought me back a little bit of goodies from that. And also sent me a very nice care package of some of the Garbage Chute Droids cards. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. He still has some packs. So if you're looking for those last-minute Christmas gifts, there's still some packs of Garbage Chute Droids to buy. And as you've been looking on his Instagram page, and he's been showing me he's working on the wrapper for the next set. So, and what's nice is that he also gets a lot of artists that will do sketch cards for him. So it's a full-featured pack. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So I recommend you check him out at garbagechutedroids.com. But anyway, all right. I'm going to get us into our conversation with Adam Marks, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hey, folks, this is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, where you know it's always sunny on Scarif, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
We're in attack position now, sir.
Hold here.
We're not going to attack.
I have my orders from the Emperor himself. He has something special planned for him. We only need to keep him from escaping.
Anyway, yeah. And again, I'm born in 1977, so I grew up in the mid to late 80s as a Yankee fan. So I can say I'm not a fair weather fan. I grew up when the Yankees were not too great. And I'll also say my other claim to fame was I'm actually a big Cubs fan, which I grew up as a Cubs fan because and this is a much longer story, but although it does relate to cards, I remember back in the 86, 87, I would go to card shows with my brother, who is 4 years older than me. I was into Garbage Pail Kids, not surprising. But I would get you remember the grab bags, you get $1 and you get 5 cards, or $10 and you get 20 random cards. Went to a few shows, maybe had 100 cards that had 35 Andre Dawsons, totally random. But I'm like, who is this guy? And that's when WGN was a superstation. So even though I lived in New Jersey, I got the local Chicago broadcast and was able to watch in 1987. That was when Dawson went to the Cubs. And at the time, the only player, the first player, the only player to get MVP on the last place team. That was a 49 home run year. But I fell in love with the Cubs. Said, hey, who's this random guy I got on 30 baseball cards? So I was a big Cubs fan and a Yankee fan, which, they didn't do too well for the longest time.
Well, and just that, we were talking growing up in the 80s where you had TBS was one of the first stations that a lot of people got as a cable package. And so that very mediocre Braves team, I'm a TBS kid. And so you knew most of the Braves roster just because. But if you think about WOR, WGN, and TBS, of which most people probably had in that, this was really the first time that you saw a team day after day. And this was not the game of the week. This was just sort of it was random games. You'd come home, the Braves are playing whatever. Or the Mets were playing on WR, or, Cubs are playing on WGN. So it's just one of those things where, it became more than just my team, the team that I'm going for. And especially for anybody who didn't grow up in a major market where you're just not attached to the Cubs or Sox or Yanks or Mets or something like that. So you're just all right, it's just on and it's running. And it was a whole different ballgame. And especially it ties into cards because then if you're pulling packs of 87 or 88 Topps baseball, you go, oh yeah, there's flip. Rafael Ramirez, there's Dale Murphy, there's Bob Horner or Gaylord Perry or something like this, and you go, yeah, okay, these guys, I know these guys, and they're not that great. Dale Murphy was a real good player on a very poor team in a very powder blue. But it's part of growing up, and it's funny, Adam, because I know that, you have this nostalgia for these cards that you just grew up with, these cards and these players, because it's of an era that's not quite what it is now, but it is something where I think you almost celebrate the mediocre or just what the cards meant to us at the time, or the players and all this, because it was just this is something we didn't experience before, whether it was was a 24-hour news, sports, or entertainment network, or just the fact that like, oh yeah, cards are, this is just something that comes out and it's really cool, and now I get to know players day after day, and it becomes part of the drama. It becomes part of the fabric of me growing up.
It's funny. It's literally the third time in 24 hours that baseball cards have come up. Like, I haven't talked about baseball cards in forever. I was at an event yesterday. We were just with a bunch of guys and we were watching the series, and a buddy of mine messaged me last night saying, oh, I'm going through a bunch of stuff from when I was a kid. I came out these tubs of cards. But like the third time literally in 24 hours, we're talking about these baseball cards, which are still all sitting in my closet in boxes, all from 87 to 94. And it probably has a combined value of like $27, right? Like, they're not worth anything, but I cannot bring myself to throw them out. Like, it just, my wife keeps saying, get rid of them. But like, I don't know. I can't get rid of them. It's so funny.
You can get rid of them because it's like some of this stuff is just, it's our background. Whether, like on the channel, I talk about Star Wars cards and I talk about, like Wonder Bread and all this kind of stuff. It's like some of the stuff which are base cards, or if you think about, like wacky packages or garbage pail kids, some of the stuff you go, this is a part of my background. This is just growing up. And there's a time when you go like for me, living in a town that has one stoplight, but it has a pharmacy that has comics and all manner of trading cards, and really what you see is what you got. Whether it was like the oversized Empire Strikes Back ones, or you pick up these ones. I remember the Pac-Man cards that did the scratch-off games. It's like, oh, this is what it is now. You had no idea what was coming. You had no idea whether it was going to be on the shelves for a while. It was just like, if you missed a comic, darn, next month you might get to follow the story. You might have to wait a couple of months until whoever it was in your neighborhood picked up the one and you didn't.
Yeah.
And now with everything so prevalent and it's there, and if you don't get it, you can pick it up off eBay or something like that. It's so second nature to us. But it's like some of the stuff where it was like, oh, great, it's there, it's not. And if I never see it again, it just became a part of the fabric of what just growing up.
Yeah, we try to talk about it with my kids all the time, just like how different things are. Whether it's even just watching TV. Oh, I missed the episode of whatever is on this Friday night. Like, well, maybe in a few months it will be on a rerun, or I might never see it again. And it's like, it's so different this time around. And also being in my office surrounded by crap, I love just reaching for stuff and like things in my hand. I have a ET pack. I have Goonies. I found this. I was at the other day. Have you ever seen these? They're just generic. Let me turn my background off and you can see all my crap. I showed this.
I saw the pack. That's really kind of.
It's this generic. It just says your favorite photo cards or stickers, and you open it up, and this one happened to have Knight Rider cards in it. Like, it was just
nice.
These are just repacks that just you literally have no idea. They must have just, hey, whatever's in there, just grab it. Throws a random wrapper on. I picked these up a few weeks ago. I was at a show. I'm like, what the hell's in those? I have to see. So, funny.
And that's no different. Like a lot of times, I like picking up random lots of Star Wars cards or whatnot, because it's like it's the closest thing and cheapest thing, by the way, to picking up, regular packs of Star Wars cards, because I as a lot of folks discovered Star Wars cards, or just whatever they had in their closet, during COVID, and I was putting together because I was afraid that a lot of these cards would be out of the price range of folks, and so I would just grab lots, and I would get them, and you try to build sets, and it's not the most efficient way. But on the one hand, it's like I will never have the pleasure of a 15-cent pack or a 25-cent pack where there wasn't high stakes. Now it's like if I'm going after the latest Star Wars Chrome, I just bought a blaster off of GameStop after my local GameStop ran out of their. They seem to have a pile of them. So I'm like, it wasn't a small, like I still got it for around $25, but that's not a small investment. And I know that I have a majority of them. Like the likelihood I'm going to fill in any of my set is low because as you get to a certain point, you're going to just get mostly dupes. But
if you need any base refractors, even the red waves, I have tons of duplicates.
Nice.
So if you have a list of needs, hit me up. I was actually sorting a lot of that stuff earlier today. So
I may do that. I've been enjoying this chase, and I will probably continue to enjoy this chase because Galaxy is going to come in at around $300 a box.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a while before they hit the secondary market. You know, even whenever you hear this, it's still going to be pricey. And so the thing that I like about Chrome, although, you know, arguably I've said over a while that Topps has gotten a little Chrome crazy, is that it's a large base set. I'm not in a big hurry to fill it only because I'm like, you know what? I don't mind a long chase. The red waves in the blasters are an amazing variant. And if you look at the sell sheet for Galaxy, autos are going to come at a premium. They're really more focused on the variants, and so, and who knows what's going to come out later this year. So we may end up with like 2 or 3 sets total for 2025. So why rush anything? You know, just enjoy the chase because we're in a whole new era.
The last few years, I mean, most of the sets have come out, especially because of the price point. I'll buy a box or two, like I'll open it up, I'll have fun, maybe I'll get into a couple of breaks on Facebook, you know, just kind of enjoy it. Chrome, this past Chrome was probably one of the first releases in like 2 or 3 years that I do not want to admit how much money I spent on, you know, just over the last 6 months. Now I've also hit some monsters, and I've done a lot of reselling to pay for a good chunk of that. But it's like, I think the price point of when it first came out, I was getting for $100 a box. The 4 hits plus the auto per box guaranteed. It was a fun chase that made it enjoyable to open up. I think so much of the Galaxy and the Chrome Mass Rookies, you're paying so much money, and maybe you get one or two parallels, and you're hoping it's something decent. Like, it wasn't fun buying boxes and ripping for the last few years. I think Chrome, just the price point and the number of hits made it enjoyable. How you can get some really great stuff without a significant investment. Although the blasters I still don't get. I mean, the hit rate on those, like, it's almost non-existent. Those red waves are great, and they're $25 a box. It's like, again, 3-4 years ago, you were getting paper cards for 10, Chrome, and maybe for 15 to 20 for the blasters, and you were usually getting something out of it. Now it's up to $25, and you're not really guaranteed anything.
Well, there's something to that, in that, yes, the price of the blasters have gone up. The one thing I am happy is that they got away from the patch or the medallion hit, only because I had nowhere to store it.
And they were those, usually I agree, those were like, they're manufactured kind of like, there was nothing.
They're interesting. Now, I would say that on that note, what's funny is with some of these variants, and especially with the red wave, the refractor variant is kind of pointless, because I'm like, you can barely tell the difference from a regular card and a refractor, other than the fact that you can kind of see it and you turn it over and say that. So like the red wave, the one thing I liked about it was the fact that it looks really different. You got about 4 per box. But the thing of, the thing of it is that, like, I know that when I go after a blaster, I am really not going after it from the auto. If I want to go for an auto and I want to do like a rainbow or something, I'll go on the secondary market. I'm not going there for it. But the fact that it went from 100 to 150 on the base told me, like, I could get more blasters if I just go casually. But the one thing that I what I hope I speak to for the audience I talk to is, like, for the casual collector, the one that's not necessarily like going in whole hog, you need to get something on the shelves so that it's easy for someone to go, if they're doing a Target run, like, who isn't going to Target about every other weekend like I am, where you're picking up this or that laundry soap or, pair of shoes or something like that, where it's like, I want something to be on the shelves so that at least is an option. You know, a Walmart is a really roll of the dice because it's like they might have stuff, it might be on the floor, it might be whatever, but I do want I like the fact that Costco had something.
Yeah.
GameStop had something because I want, you know, we're never going to get probably back to the place where there are packs where you could just go, oh yeah, I'm at the counter and I grab a couple, throw it on there, boom. Five Below actually is not a bad place for that if you like baseball and some things where it's like you could do that. But, you know, you want that casual collector to go, you know what, throw a couple packs on there. I don't care.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think it makes it tough is that when you make the entry point for, let's say, like the Galaxy, when this comes out, you know, Galaxy will be the new set coming out, where $300 a box is not something that any normal person is going to go, oh yeah, I'll just take a chance at it. You know, I'm going to let the breakers and those folks dive in, and if you want to invest and if you want to do your whatnots, if you want to make your money back, that's fine. I will pick up a lot of the base off the secondary markets because I just don't have that kind of scratch, and that's not what I am looking for. I think like you are like me, like I am in it for, I want to look at the cards, I want to enjoy, I want to see this year's model. We're 4 of the Chrome releases in. And so you start, you know, we look at it more from a top-down view of like, what's the set trying to say? Who are the artists they're bringing in? You know, the superfractors and all that are one thing, but that's not what we're looking at this for. We're looking at to kind of go, oh, this is interesting. I may put a base together. Oh, who are they focusing on? Who are the artists? Please, would you, attribute them?
Yeah.
But we're looking at it from a whole completely different angle, or at least trying to until they price it out.
Yeah. And it also matters. One of the big things that impacted me for this Chrome set, which I haven't had much in the past, was there's an R5D4 card. And you know me, I'm an R5D4, so it gave me something to chase as well.
Yes.
So that's why I wound up going after, because I love the character because there's not a ton to chase. There's enough to make it fun, but not too much to make it crazy. Like there's been a couple of Masterwork cards, there's a couple of little things here or there, but it was a fun chase going after it this year. So that kind of kept me in, interested in going after getting more and more. And the other set, I originally wasn't a huge fan of them, but the Orabash short prints, I decided to chase the Orabash 99 set to try to go for a full 150 card set of. I am one away. I am almost. And I had it, and then the deal fell through. But yeah, that's been kind of just a fun chase because it's something to go after. And I think some of the recent years, like there hasn't been anything that I've been like super excited beyond. Yeah, I want to get a base, I want to get this, and now I know enough people that all these breakers after a month or two, they're not even shipping base. Like if you just want a base set, just reach out to some of these guys and say, hey, can you throw? But also give me an extra $20. Just send me a base set. I mean, base sets mean nothing anymore, which is interesting. It's all about the parallels, and it's about the superfractors and the autos, or the rainbows. But yeah, the base sets are they're cool to look at now, and they're fun to chase, like for what you're doing, but they're not what they were when we were growing up, where it's like that was it. That was what you were trying to collect. Now it's just a delivery method for the parallels. Is really all it is.
Yeah, and oh my God, yeah, and that's something where it's like, when I look at the prices for these things, it's like it's not even something that is in the realm of possibility when you're looking at like cases that are going to be, several $1,000s, and you're going, no, only because I do not have the mechanism to make it back. I mean, I can, I do need to sell off some things, but it's like, what I don't want is the same thing. And it's very interesting. So, but prior to this, and, like I said, we're recording on a Sunday. I came from a tavern where a buddy of mine, we were watching the Bears game. I live in Chicagoland. But I knew that there were some people, we were doing some people just down, a couple of stools down, that had some bets on the game. I don't think they'd had a whole lot invested, but early on in the afternoon, you could tell that they were doing well, or whatever they had betted, they were doing okay, and they're very, very boisterous, and that's cool. I appreciate, like, if you want to enjoy the game that way, same as like if you want to get into cards in that way. But it's like as the night gone on, they got real quiet. Must not have worked out for them. And I was like, you know what? For me, I'm not from Chicagoland. If the Bears win, great, awesome. If not, I'm not going to lose any sleep, and I definitely didn't lose any money. And I could tell, I'm like, whatever it was, it didn't sound like they had made out. And I'm like, yes, when you see all the ads and things like that about, like how supposedly betting can enhance the game, just as if you're going in, you're doing like some of these, you're doing, whatever you're doing to get some of these cards, or you're trying to see if you can get it. And I'm like, that is something where I'm like, when I left, I was like, there was no, other than maybe my fantasy team not doing well today, I didn't feel that I had anything lost. I lost from like, I lose more in DoorDashes than I do in gambling, and I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like, at the end of the day, buying a lunch or a dinner for my, for some of my kids, or like we went out and we went to this restaurant and we got some McDonald's or something. I'm like, that's just sort of like, that's just the cost of doing business when you're a parent. But I'm like, I can't imagine the added stress, especially with something I love, which is cards, to say that something I'm like, that would hurt me if I went in more than what I have the ability to spend. Because for some of us, this is a lost, this is a sunk cost. I'm like, if I go in and buy this, I'm not necessarily expecting to turn a profit. I just enjoy the cards. But I would think that, boy, it would really suck if the hobby that I love, the cardboard I love, really was hurting me to enjoy rather than just, collect and enjoy.
Yeah, and the thing with, I just got into Whatnot a few months ago. And I know you had I was listening to a podcast of yours, you were talking something about it a couple months ago, but it's like, it's interesting because, you talk about sports gambling. I mean, Whatnot and breaks, it's card gambling. I mean, at the end of the day, same rush. You're trying to, hey, I'll get Team Droids and hope I get a big card, and sometimes you get nothing. It is definitely one of the things you have to be careful, because, I'll just get a $20 break here. I'll just get a $30 break here. Just $10. Oh, it's just $5. Next thing you look at your credit card statement, like, I just spent $250 in the last 3 days. Like, wow, I gotta hold off. But then, I'm not sure I have it over here. One of the cards I picked up, I was on one of the breaks that was, so you can, how you can buy a team break that's like, okay, I'm buying Team Droids, and any Droids cards comes out. Or you get the randoms, which is like the wheel breaks. You buy $10, they spin the wheel, and you get Team Ahsoka, or you get this. So you get the chance of getting characters you might not necessarily buy, and really expensive ones for really cheap. So I was in one a month or so ago, and let's see if I think I have the card over here. And I picked up, I was lucky enough, I ended up pulling both Ahsoka and Sabine, and I was lucky enough to get a number to 5 auto of Rosario Dawson and the actress who plays Sabine, who I can never remember what her name is. You probably know it off the top of your head, but Natasha. Natasha, which is, I guess, I feel bad now. But you get, all of a sudden, you paid $30 to get a break, and I pull like a $1,500 card, right? And it's that thrill. I haven't sold it yet. It's like one of those, I love that card. It's such a cool card, but can I also justify holding on to a 2.5 by 3.5 piece of paper that has that value? And it's like, that's a mortgage payment, like that's definitely one of those balances. And I have to kind of figure out, what do I want to keep? What do I not? What's worth it? Anyway.
Well, and I would say that I've done it before. Like, I've been in Raz's where I think I got in a Ashley Eckstein auto at one point. I'm going, you know what, that was great. And but at that point also, I think when you go into those things, whether it's a Whatnot or what, if I have the cash to go, you know what, I'll take a $30 or $40 flyer on this, and I'm okay. Like, I think it's the same thing with, like, if I'm going on, like, FanDuel or whatnot, like, if you have the kind of money and you go, you know what, I have it to go, not everybody like you and me not everybody's thinking about custom cards. Like, oh, hey, it's a payday coming up. Oh, good. I'm going to throw in this card, or I got there was a coupon off of one of the printers I use. I'm like, okay, good. I have a card I'm working on. Great. I'll throw it to the printer. Not everybody is thinking like you and me, where it's like, oh, good. Now I have a chance to make a custom card. Shocking. That may be not where their $30 or $40 is going. But on the one hand, I think it's like anything else. It's like, if I have, it's disposable income. If I put it there, like even when I've gone to Vegas, where I'm like, I'll put X number of money down in like black or red. I'm like, I'm the worst gambler in Vegas, but I'm like, you know what? I like the story of doing it. Just going, I went over to the blackjack table. I played for 15, 20 minutes and I was done. But I would hate to chase this if it was something where I'm like, oh my gosh, you're talking about a mortgage payment. Going, well, I had the mortgage payment ready, but I spent it because I did this, and now the onus is on me to get back what I spent on it. And that's just with everything else out there. It's not something I'm willing to do. Yeah. When I could say, anyway, I'm going around and around on it, but that is just something where I'm like, it's now something that everything is now ratcheted up a little bit. But if you're into cards, there's enough of a thing there, even with like whether it's Galaxy or whether it's Chrome, to go, you know what? There's a fun chase there. If you like cards, there's still something to shoot for. Whether or not you're a high-end guy and you're going to turn around and flip it, cool. Or you're just like, you know what? Because at this point, Star Wars is still not Marvel in that there is a chance to fill out that base. If you're a Marvel guy, a lot of those sets are so big, it's super hard to fill out a chase. I don't know what they're doing. I know Garbage Pail Kids have had some releases, but I don't know if those sets are big enough where you can even chase the base to fill out a set.
So it's interesting is, I was going to bring up Garbage Pail Kids on this as well, talking about kind of the paper versus the chrome. But I recently got into a couple of the baseball card sets, because the most recent Bowman set had Garbage Pail Kid short prints. I don't know if you've seen those at all. So because they've been recently doing the last few years a Garbage Pail Kid Major League Baseball mashup, where they'll have different artists. They've had 3 different artists. Each year it's a different artist, and they'll take a bunch. And the first year, I think, second year was like 15 card set. Then last year was only a 25, and there's an A and a B, so 25 characters will be 50 cards. Not huge, but they're not cheap either. So they were a big hit. So in the Bowman, they were doing a chase, like a case hit, or I think it's actually like 1 in every 3 cases of a Garbage Pail Kid version. And so Jason Dominguez, who's one of the new Yankee prospects, he had a card. So I was getting into some of these breaks for baseball, which I have not collected baseball cards since 1994. And like I went in there and I'm looking at this checklist, and it's a 500 card base set, and like, so I'm like, oh my God, baseball, Star Wars Chrome, we were complaining, it went from 100 to 150. So I'm here, but what's interesting with Garbage Pail Kids is they have really 2 main type of retail releases, either the Chrome release or it's the paper type products. The Chrome are just chromium versions of the original OS series. So coming up, it was supposed to be a few months ago, but any day now or any week now, they're coming up with their Chrome 7, which is literally just a Chrome version of their OS original series 7. So there'll be like 100 card base set. Their paper is all usually new artwork. So a few months ago, they did what's called Kids at Play. So it was again, roughly that 100 card set that it's all just new artwork, and it's all new gags. And you end up, it used to be like $10 for a blaster. Those are now like $20 a blaster versus 25 or 30. But like, I would always enjoy the less expensive paper products more than the Chrome, because it's new gags, new fun, new things to chase. But to your point, it's usually like it would be a 200 card set, 100A, 1 through 100A, and then 1 through 100B, because they always have the 2 names, and then the parallels and everything else. But it's enough where you buy a few boxes, you trade it with a few people. It's easy enough to get a full base set if that's all you're interested in. And then you usually find 1 or 2 characters you really like, and you'll go for the rainbow. And you can chase it. But like even with the new Chrome, anything over 50 or more, you could find on eBay for a couple of bucks, right? It's when you get to the 25s and the 10s, unless it's a Vader or Ahsoka or, Shin, something like that. Even the 25s are going for, for like an R5D4, I was getting it for $10 to $15. So it's one of those, if you want to chase a certain character, go for it that way. And if you want to chase the base set, it's usually not a big issue. But I was just thrown for a loop when I saw that baseball card set, and there's like 500 card set. I'm like, wow, how do you get a base set of that? That is quite a task.
Well, and even, recently I've been kind of toying with the idea of going after a 1978 Topps football set. I have a 56 baseball, which is around 340 cards. But the 78 NFL Topps is around 528 or something like that. And you go, that's a pretty thick binder to commit to that. And I started kind of going, I got like a pack of just like team cards. I love the 1978 design. It was one of the first, I think, after the Star Wars sets came out, I think it was some of the first football I'd ever chased, because I think 79-80 was baseball. It's like by that time, I'd gotten into behavior. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick up packs. I'm going to, they're still relatively inexpensive. But although it's a pretty bland looking set, the 78 card, I'm like, all right. So I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to go with a full base set, but I do want to collect certain things from it. I do like, I'm always a checklist guy. Give me checklists, but also certain teams. So I'm like, all right, I'm from Ohio. I should probably go after Browns, Bengals. I like the Cowboys, get the Steelers, get certain teams. And so it's going to end up being kind of an eclectic type set where it's not going to be the whole thing, but I can go after certain things. And so I think to your point is like going after bits and pieces of it to go, I still love the design. I still love the fact that it's something from my youth, but I don't necessarily have to worry about getting all of it. And even I think one of the biggest rookies was like a Tony Dorsett. He was a Cowboy running back. I think I can get it. I can get one for as low as like $20. I'm like, okay. So some of those big ones are not going to be that expensive because football was never quite that expensive, never quite as valuable as the baseball. But I'm like, it's something where if you're going after, what are you chasing and why? I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, to go after something, because you're right. Some of these sets are just immense. Like the baseball sets are huge. I have an 87. My son got me an 87 box that I think that they were the local shop was gonna pitch, and I'm like, yeah, these sets are like 700-800 cards, and you're going, there's only so much room on the shelf, but thankfully in the non-sport, these sets are not that big, and if you're patient, you can get a good value of it. It's just like, it's not the newest thing. You're not ripping wax. You're not going to go on Instagram and maybe rip a blaster box or something. But it's like at the end of the day, if the cards are what you want, if you're patient, you're going to get there.
Yeah. Especially for some of the less expensive ones. Of course, then you get to some of the more expensive if you're chasing a character or if you're doing a rainbow. Like I remember a 2019 Chrome Legacy for Star Wars was the first set that got me back into collecting. And there was, not surprisingly, because it was an R5D4, is the Lars Homestead. So, it had the Luke bending down. You see R2 and R5 like that on that image. And it was also back in the days when you would go and get like the red to 5 Chrome. I think I overspent on eBay and it was like $25. Right. Nowadays, that red to 5, you're talking, $150, $200, right? But the one of one, I could not find it. Finally went up on eBay a couple of months ago, and I wish I paid what 2019 Superfractor prices were. Luckily, it wasn't one of those super expensive ones, but it was one of those I had to do it. But that was one I had to be patient for. But it's the same thing. Like it could have been sitting in a box for 5 years. And, you get on all these breaks and whatnot, and do this and spend so much money. Like, you know what? Put that money in a bank. Wait a couple of years. Finally, somebody gets it. They'll put it up on eBay, and it's probably spend a lot less money than you would just trying to chase it. But
well, and it's one of those where you could try to I love in some of these sets that, like, let's say Finest or some of these where I'm like, I wasn't necessarily that into the set. I went after you go a couple weeks later and you'll see like people dumping these autos and so forth, and so I'm like, yeah, I'll do a rainbow of a cheap auto. I'm doing one on the chrome now that I can kind of go and it's kind of fun because you can put a save search in, you can see something and going, you know what, it's fun, and you can make this set what you want of it. And if you're smart, then you go like, I got everything I kind of wanted out of this. I'm like, okay, I've got a good chunk of the base set. I'll probably end up finishing it one way or the other, whether I trade it for it, whether I buy it. But also it's like, it makes more sense to kind of have fun with an auto as opposed to trying to blow part of your paycheck on a box and then you end up with an auto that's worth $5. I'm like, well, why don't I pocket $295 and I'll go after that $5 auto later, and then if I'm lucky, I'll see how high I can get up before I actually have to spend some money. And you go, and at this point, I'm still looking at autos to complete rainbows from 1 or 2 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, that it's not like those cards are not going to be there. It's like, what they're doing is they're burning a hole in somebody else's pocket, and I'm going, well, and even one's auto, I'm going like, you're not going to make $35 for that. You will sell it to me eventually. You don't know this yet, but you're selling it to me for about 10, 15, 20 bucks. I'm just a very patient person, but at the one point, that's what I find fun. I'm like, you know what? But if I ever decide to flip these, I'm like, you know what? A rainbow of this might actually get some of my money back or more so, because I'm like, yeah, it's an odd type of thing to collect, but as a group, they will become much more valuable than just somebody trying to flip a $5 auto for $15.
So what are some of the autos that you've been chasing? Some of those.
So I started back, I think, with the Finest 2022 or 2023. It was the Oliver F. Davies, which I ended up getting all but the 1 of 1. I think I was lucky enough to get an of 5, and I think I had just about all the variants of his auto, including the base one. And then I realized, let's see, 2023 Finest last year, there was a Ryder McLaughlin who was Wade in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm like, hey, there's a McLaughlin in this? I had no idea because I used to make fun of the character, but I was like, okay. So, but there were more variants, and I think there was a color variant for a lot of his audio, then there was a color variant, then there was like a wave type variant. So there was more variants. I'm like, okay, fine. And I got all but 1 or 2 of those. Of course, the 101s, they rarely show up. Usually either they are black hole collectors, they just haven't been pulled. And with a 101, anybody can set their price because I'm like, you have the 1 of 1. Yeah. And so this year I kind of did the same, where I went after some Ryder McLaughlins, but there was also like a Chad Parker? There was another person from Obi-Wan Kenobi that was one of those, like, he was one of those guys that were cutting up the whale, and he was like, how come you have, can I get more money? And the guy was like, no, or you can get nothing.
Right.
But I found a couple really good deals on his auto, and I have about half of them. But I mean, some of these now with the sets are released, they could have 12, 13, 14 variants when it's all said and done. So you really have to go, okay, it's easier usually if you find a good deal on the of 5 right away, and then you can collect down. And then, you find those people who are like, you're in denial if you're thinking you're getting $35 for that auto. When I just got that orange of 50 for like $5. And so I'm like, you know what, that's, if you're looking for comps, I'm like, well, I hate to tell you this, but you can eventually go. And if you put it on, the nice thing about it is when you put a lot of this on the watch list, some people will come back later and they'll go, hey, looks like you're interesting. I'll take this. If you're smart, you'll just go, oh, or best offer. I don't know why more people don't do that, because if anybody's putting any interest on the millions of items that are on eBay, I'm like, just if anybody takes a flyer of interest on something you're selling, you should be open to take something, especially if you're a bigger seller, because I'm like, it's burning a hole in my collection, or it's taking up space. I'm like, if somebody wants it, great. I'll make money up on another sale, but It's what somebody wants to pay for it.
Cool.
I am kind of curious. There's a couple of big topics. Eventually, we were going to get to some of the stuff that that I brought you on, but there's two topics that I wanted to talk about. But I am curious about. You have been over the time. You're either getting ready for a new release of Garbage Chute Droids.
Yeah.
But talk to me about the latest set or the set that's coming up.
Yeah.
And putting this one together, because you still seem to have a great relationship with a lot of artists, and you're still just going full guns blazing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I was looking back because I've now been doing Garbage Chute Droids. It was almost 5 years ago. It was just over 5 years ago that I asked Brent Scotchford to do my first, and that was just a commission. I know I was on I was looking back when I was on your show last, which was, believe it or not, 3 years ago.
Good
December
Lord.
of 21. Yeah, like, wow, where has the time gone? And I know I won't go over the whole history because you have that podcast, but I asked Brent just to do a commission of Atom Bomb and R5D4, they're two of my favorite things. Yada yada yada. Hey, let's make cards out of it, and it became this whole little mini business, right? Where it's interesting how it's taken on a life of its own for sure. Speaking of, the new set I do have coming out, it was supposed to be out a few months ago. I'm definitely very far delayed. Part of it was I ended up getting a herniated disc and a pinched nerve back in April, which really delayed things and still limits me on kind of how much work I could do. But it was interesting back in 2021 when we were talking. My plan was like, I work with Brent, we come up with a character, and then I would do a release around that character. And so there'd be different variants. If people who know Garbage Pail Kids know there's usually like an A and a B name of the same character. It's like Atom Bomb was Atom Bomb and Blast Billy. And then in recent years, they've done concept art cards or C-name cards. So I would do a couple of different variants. And then Brent was like, hey, we should do some autograph cards. So I have autographs, and we did metal cards. And we just kind of, expanded what we had in there. And back in 2021, I was just had just released or was just about to release my 6th character. And I think on the 3rd or the 4th one, Brent was like, hey, we should do wax packs. So, anyone who knows, I go out to Sidekick Labs. They do, they actually make real wax packs. They have the original machine work as well. So like the Mars Attacks ones that come out, I know people have seen recently, or some of the stuff Topps does, they'll use Sidekick Labs to create these wax packs. So I physically created wax pack wrappers. I have little hand iron. I seal these shut. I think it's like 100 wax packs for that first set. But it was like, hey, let's do sketch cards. Let's do all these different things. So back when I first started and we were just doing sketch cards, I had a couple of friends who were sketch artists, but it was a lot of me, hey, can you do this? I'll give you extra product. I was kind of having to almost beg for, people to get in. And over time, one of the big things that I've done is I'm not a big company. I'm not a big corporation. I don't have a ton of rules. I basically say to them, like, I have a couple of rules. One is every card has to feature a Star Wars droid and a Garbage Pail Kid reference, or be one of my kind of official characters I've made. And 2, it has to be a card, if you pulled it from a pack, if you would be happy with it, then I'm going to be happy with it. Like, beyond that, I don't police the art. I mean, I cannot draw for the life of myself. Like, so I'm like, I'm not going to say, hey, this art's not good enough, like, because it's still 100 times better than anything I can do. So it's also been a way, I know, for a lot of these artists who, when they work for Topps, and there's a lot of these other companies as well, have very rigid rules of what you can do. And I know some of those Topps rules have been a little more flexible the last few years. I know they went to like that really photorealism. It has to be a certain kind of shot of certain characters. It's a little looser now, but it kind of gave a lot of these guys a very kind of big creative outlet that they could just go and have fun with it. And so I was getting a lot of artists, and some would now come to me like, hey, I saw you were doing this. Can I get in on it? And what's nice is the last few years, I haven't had to go out and say, do this for me. I'm small enough where if all of a sudden I had 1,000 sketch cards, like, I wouldn't know what to do with it. So the release I'm working on right now is my biggest one yet. So I have a new character that I've been teasing out. So hopefully I'll probably the next couple of days finally release my ninth character. But I'm doing 1,000 wax packs. So
wow.
500 what I call collector packs and 500 hobby packs. So my hobby packs are the less expensive. They're like $4 or $5 a pack. There's no big hit in there, although this go around, I think about 75% of those cheaper ones will have an artist autograph. I'll talk about that in a second, or like a metal card, or a printing plate, which I'll get into that in a moment as well. Where the collector packs, they run about $20, but they have a guaranteed hit. So there's 500 of them with a 50% chance of actually pulling one of those sketches. So of the 500 packs, there's 200 hand-drawn original sketch cards, which wouldn't you love it if Topps had that pull rate? But I have autograph cards. I have some celebrity autograph cards. I was actually just went to in town. They had a Smallville convention, the first Salute to Smallville convention, which we've been watching it with my daughter. Like, hey, we should go to this. So I made up a couple. One of my artists, Fox Lang, who is amazing. He's actually doing cards for Garbage Chute Kids now. I said, can you create a couple that I can get Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, the two actors? So like I've made actual cards that, and I'll send you pictures of these. I mean, they're on my website.
I saw that with Hu Yang.
Yeah, these are both the Clark one, which but it's a way that I kind of go out there and do celebrity autographs, and it's just basically finding ways to kind of help to expand what I'm doing out there, and just the different types of cards that we're building out there. So it's been a lot of fun. It's the amount, like I said, the amount of sketch artists I have. I probably worked the last 5 years with about 50 or more different sketch artists. I would say at this point, probably 75% of them are now have either do work or have worked for Topps. It's kind of a little bit of pride on my end. There's a lot of these guys where like, I was not, if you want to do sketches for me, I was happy to have you come on board. Like I know our mutual friend Tracy, right? Medina, she's not a professional artist in the sense of she doesn't do work for Topps or others, but she was great. She was interested. I'm like, hey, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to have you on board. If you have a passion for the content and you want to do some art for me, great. And I probably had about a dozen or so people who I've kind of given this platform to have since been recognized and have actually been doing their cards for Topps, either on the Star Wars or the Garbage Pail Kid side of the house, which is great, except it gives them a lot less time to do Garbage Chute Droids cards. So, because as we all know, when you sign up for Topps, it is a very, very labor-intensive project that you end up getting, because it's a lot of cards in a very short period of time. But it's just been a lot of fun. So, I mean, on the sketch cards, it's just anyone who's interested. If you're an artist who enjoys Star Trek and stories, I keep saying Star Trek. I've been waiting to watch Lower Decks, and that just came back. Star Wars or Garbage Chute Kids, and you want to get on board, I'm like, just reach out to me. I mean, it's once I get this next release out over the next week or two, and I'll have some more free time. Like, you want to come on board, you want to just show off your art, I am happy to have you. And it's been, like I said, a great experience for a lot of these artists, because it allows them to show off their artwork with a lot fewer restrictions. Like, you're not saying, I don't want to say the brand because I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I know there's one sketch card series that a bunch of the artists I work with got on board, and it was like, okay, you need to do 5 of this character with this pose, with these different color backgrounds, and 5 of this character with this exact pose. Like, it becomes a factory, not fun. And I think what's happened is Garbage Chute Droids in a lot of cases has become that kind of outlet for them to have that creative freedom and do something that's not beholden to a corporate entity, and say, this is how it has to be done. I think I've only rejected literally like 2 sketches over the last 4 or 5 years, mostly for political reasons. Like, it's one of the things that either political or just a little raciness, like kind of drugs and alcohol. They also try to be very kid friendly. Like, there's a couple of those Garbage Pail Kids in the past were not. We're definitely PG-13, almost bordering on some R-rated type stuff. But like I know I have a lot of families that I work with like, who open it with their kids and do stuff. So I don't want the drugs and alcohol. I don't want the political statement. It's also a very polarized world we live in right now, where I know like cops that used to do these kind of election related cards. And I mean, going into 2020, they would do 20, like, both sides of the political spectrum, equal opportunity, right? Offense, but you can't do that these days. And I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of humor out there. I don't want to get into it because then it's just seen as, oh, I'm supporting this candidate or I'm supporting that candidate. And it's just no politics, no religion, no drugs. Aside from that, go and have fun. So, it's really good times.
No, and by the time this comes out, we will have been, way past into what will become, and that is a whole other thing. But I kind of find some of the same where, I am, I'm working on next year's set of ones I give away. I'm not smart like you where, like, wow, you could actually make money back from it.
Not a lot, though. I mean,
not a lot.
Don't get me wrong. I definitely make money, but like the profit per hour, the amount of time that goes into packing up 1,000 wax packs, I think my wife would rather me not do it than not. But anyway.
Exactly.
Interrupting.
But there is something from the first few cards you work on where there is, I just want to get them out. There is, mostly it's about the process of turning these things out, getting them packed and in the hands of folks, whether they collect them or not. And when you get several series in, right? And it's funny because I just finished, I'll have almost got them by the time this comes out, where I think I sent off card 50. And I've done more than 50 cards, but this one just happened to be number 50. And I start to, like when I go into the process of making them now, you start to think about less of, well, I'm just trying to gather X number for whatever the set is. Now it's like every one that I do, I'm like, is this something I want to put out? And you really start to now think about, you start to treat yourself now as more of a card producer where you go, okay, now I've got in, have I done this card before? So now you start to, like, without even thinking about, there are standards, and I wouldn't say standards. Standards is a bad choice of words, but is there something like, have I done something like this before? Some of this might be at a thing that I've been at before, but do I want a different angle? Do I want a different character? Do I want to? So now there are more things. The longer you do this, you start, it's the sets come out a little different. And then, of course, for me, where the sets are following the releases. So, the Empire sets are more complicated than the original ones because they're doing more things. Return of the Jedi is going to be, as we get down the road, will be a little less so, just because of that particular reason. When you get in, so it's like now, as you are doing yourself, you are doing these cards. Every set you go, in some cases, you're pushing what you tried to do, and like I like to do a little more. I may be selling back to a lot of the same customers who bought some of the earlier ones, and so I want to give them something else. I want to give them something to look forward to, something they're familiar with, but not just the same old, because otherwise it'll eventually, the sales will kind of drop. And so now you find yourself producing different cards, or you come at it, each set is going to be different from the last time.
And what's interesting on that, so I've been doing this for 5 years. I have a lot of people who got in day one, and I have a lot of people who got in just on this last release, probably about 9 months ago. When I was doing a lot of my wax packs for that first couple of years, it was usually 2 or 3 new cards and a lot of recycled old cards. So you're getting a lot of the cards I put out 2 or 3 years earlier because, like, I wasn't worried about a secondary market. I wasn't worried about collectors. People were having fun with it. But now it's become like, and I have a whole group on Facebook where there's a lot more interaction called the Garbage Chute Droid fan club. People are buying and selling these things. I have a save search on eBay now. Kind of, it's always fun to see when my cards pop up on there. But like recognizing that, like the people who helped me and supported me get to this point, I want to also give them something to be like, the benefit of the doubt that they might have a dozen of the same cards that some of the newer people don't have, give them the opportunity to potentially resell or trade. So like this new pack that's coming out, most of my packs have usually 9 cards. It's usually a sticker and 8 cards. Every single one of the cards that are in there, or except maybe one, is either all brand new, or what I did starting, I think, last release was I'm like, I have a lot of these old cards that I don't want to put in the packs anymore, but they're all from these artists. So one of the things I didn't mention was, I started off with just one artist, Brent Scotchmer, who did my art, and we did sketch cards. And one of the hardest things I ever had to do was when I get these sketch cards is put them in packs and give them out, because I'm a collector first. This has kind of been a fun little thing, but like, I want to keep everything. So I started making these sets that were what I call the artist reproduction sets. I would take like the best 10 to 12 sketch cards that I got that set and make them into reproduced cards. So you can go collect, and everybody can collect that like really kind of cool little set of cards. And then I even said, well, let's do something beyond that. And we started doing these theme sets. So I did one like Home is Where the Droid Is. Another one was, which was all, that was a homage or kind of for the artists to do something towards their hometown. I did the most recent one, a Halloween or horror related set. Can't even think off it, but so I've done a bunch of these that a lot of these artists now can have 4, 5, 6 reproduced cards that I have done. It's not just Brent, it's a lot of these people who, speaking of which, why artists enjoy coming in here, is there are these people who've been doing work for 20 years in this business, and these are the first actual card of their artwork that has ever been reproduced. And like that feels great. And I try to be artist friendly. They get a stack of like 50 cards for free. Anything I make of them, I kind of give them their cards for free. They can, if they want to buy more, I can order more extra for them, but really try to kind of say, hey, I would not be here without you. I appreciate it. Here's what I can do for you. But we start doing a artist autograph set. So what they'll do is they will sign 10, 12 cards that they've done, send it back to me. I put a little kind of official Garbage Chute Droid hologram sticker on it and kind of put those back into the packs. It's a fun way to recycle some of those old cards. But going back to your point from like 5 minutes ago, allows it to be something fresh and new that you can now chase an autograph version of that card, or, something kind of just a new chase, right? Because we all know going after the same cards over and over, it's either not fun, or it's just like you get a stack of, I don't need 50 of the same card anymore. It's like, I have enough of those. So it's trying to find new and interesting ways to engage the community, because it really has become a fun community who goes after some of these cards. And like I said, this next release was a little bit of the most ambitious that I've done, where I have different insert sets that are in there. So like, there's one I've been recently promoting on my site called Mount Droid More. So going back to that artist Fox I was mentioning. So it's a puzzle type card where it's like the Mount Rushmore of droids. So, and again, I'll try to show you on, so like, so here, but then it connects to, I'm sorry to do it backwards, but like they kind of connect and become a whole big mountain that, that you can do. So I'll send you some pictures to go along, or anyone can go right onto my Instagram or Facebook at Garbage Chute Droids and kind of see it. And it's a fun way that every time I get a new card, we're building it so you can build, make another card that will fit onto that mountain. You can kind of keep expanding it, but just fun ways to take characters that have now been around for 4 or 5 years and build new ways to introduce them, new ways to utilize them. In kind of fun ways. And this set, Fox just went out of his way. Just did such an amazing job. And I've showed off the top row of the mountain. Everyone else has to wait to see the rest of it.
Oh, that's awesome. But, and that's the other thing. It's like, it takes a lot for the initial, card or cards. And when people start getting the concept, it's like now you have an established audience, it grows. And now you can go, this is fun. Now I have a catalog. Now I have a thing where, even for myself, where it's like, it's not just one card that I'm giving and someone goes, oh yeah, I already have that card. Now it's like you go multiple sets in and you go, oh wow, now I get it. Now I understand the story. Now I know the people, because like Brent and Tracy and some of the other folks that you have gotten to do it, they're doing, like I said, their bread and butter is to get their name and art out. And they'll make it up on the backside whether or not they do it for this card or for others. But it's like, yeah, now a lot of the hard work you have done, you've done a lot of the work. Now it's just like I can build onto it, and you get to the point where let me push what I can do. At some point, there's a ceiling. I may not have hit that yet. I may not know what that is, but it makes it fun because I make these challenges. I understand the process. Now it's just not getting it out. Now it's like, how about we do something else? But at the end of the day, it's about the cards itself. I feel like I'm channeling my friend Steve Stokman and saying it's all about the cards. I'm like, it is about the cards, because this is fun, because it is channeling that mashup, and it's not a one-trick pony. These are things. And now they're out there. They're in secondary markets. People understand that. There's communities about it, and they're like, "What's happening next?" But you're feeding that sort of that joy and going, "Oh, he's doing another set. I wonder what it's going to be this time."
It also gives me a different appreciation, both on the art side of the house, working with these artists, knowing what goes into putting art on this little teeny tiny piece of cardboard, and also what they get paid for that, because they do not get compensated nearly to the level that they should for the amazing part of work on it. But it's also the process of doing the cards. I mentioned a few minutes ago printing plates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've shown you some of these pictures on DM. Like when I first started doing this, like I would go to gotprint.com or other places and put an order in for 10 cards or whatever. My last order, I'm now utilizing full production run of cards. So it's either a 90 cards at a time, or I think 107 cards. So you get the same exact quantity, the same exact amount or type of card. You can get a full production run. So I have uncut sheets of what I do now, and what I've learned, the printing plates. So I actually get the printing plates that are used to generate these cards. I didn't realize they come as a full sheet. So you don't get the individual 2.5 by 3.5 cards. You get your 3 foot by 3.5 foot metal sheets that I have to hang in my attic for 3 or 4 months to dry the ink. Then I have to cut them with metal shears.
Oh my God.
It's a whole process, and I have the cuts on my hands to prove it. But that as well has given me, again, going back to recycling some of the old ideas, I'm putting in this release actual real printing plates, true one-of-one printing plates that I've cut up for a lot of my cards. And I know it's not like a broken record, being artist friendly like I'm trying to be here. The interesting thing I do though is I give the artists first chance to get their plates if they want them for the cards they want, for a very, very nominal price, just kind of a couple of bucks to help me pay for these type of things. But one of my first artists who worked with me, I don't know if you know Marsha Parkins. She's an amazing tops artist. And I've become friends with her. And she was in a Galaxy set years ago, and she's spent the last 15 years trying to chase down the printing plates from her own artwork. And knowing that, so one of the first things I do is say, "Hey, Marsha, hey, Fox, hey, Steve, do you want these printing plates front and still have to cut up the backs of your artwork?" And some of them jump on it, and some are like, "Nope, let it out into the public, give the fans what they want, and let them go and be able to chase that." So those are going into my wax packs and all that. So it's given me a whole different appreciation of the process of what goes into making the art, making them usable for cards, designing stuff. I've got a hell of a lot better on Photoshop, I'll tell you that, over the last 5 years. Stuff that was taking me a week and a half, I could do in an hour now. But it's definitely been an interesting ride. I know we already had plans because my next character is the 10th. A 10th character. I already know. Brent and I have talked about what we're going to do for that. But even at this point, planning a year out. So like my next 2 theme sets that I have are already printed and sitting in boxes in my next room.
Wow.
It takes me about, I mean, when I do the printing of it, again, if I have to print 100 cards at a time, I have to think through, because these theme sets are usually 30 to 40 cards each, 1 card per artist, in a given theme. But it allows me to not just say, hey, I had these character releases every 9 to 12 months. Well, every 2 to 3 months, I can do one of these. I do these limited 100 set limited, themes that I can go out there. It's just something to kind of engage the community, something to keep going. But you also have to realize how far out you have to plan. Like some of this art that's going out probably in a couple of months has been sitting probably in my office for 1.5 years at this point.
Wow.
Because you have to get the artwork. I have to prepare it, scan it all in, prepare it, get everything ready, send it out for printing, and you have to think through months at a time, because otherwise I'm just doing 20, 30 cards at a time. It's a lot more economical. Plus I get the printing plates if I can do those full production runs. But and there's definitely a lot of people who've helped me out. Some of my artists who've been doing this for years. One guy, I don't know if you know the name Rusty Gilligan. He signs his artworks as Rusty. He does a lot of Topps cards. He's worked as an artist for years. He knows everybody. He's helped me out with some of the design stuff. Richard Parks, who does a lot of, he was the one who gave me, the pictures and just the step-by-step of how to cut up these printing plates. The more you get into it in this type of business, if you're known as somebody who's helpful and generous with their time and just, friendly artist, it is amazing how generous other people will be to you as well. So it's been interesting. It's definitely been cool seeing the other side of the collecting world. When Rusty keeps calling me a publisher. It's like, you're one of the best publishers I've ever worked for. I'm like, I'm not a publisher. I'm just a collector who kind of makes some of these cool little art cards and gets them out in the world. But I guess, it's kind of all fan art. It's all parody art, but it's still, it's an interesting ride. And also it gives me something to put it, like when people, buy stuff from me, or if I'm selling, Star Wars, some of these Chrome cards, I'll always throw in a few of my Garbage Chute Droids. I'll go out there, or if I go to Comic-Cons and other stuff, it's always just an interesting conversation starter with some of the guests and some of the artists there. It's like I say, it's been interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Well, and just to kind of wrap things up on this, where are we at as far as the latest set? Where can people find you, and what's the next thing they can look forward to as far as like adding to their cart and shipping? Because that, I think, is that's going to help you out.
So it will be, the nice thing is I try to be stuff available at every price point. If you just want to get a couple of wax packs, you can get that shipped for under $20. If you want to get
Nice.
a whole, here I want the new set with all of the metal, with all of the autographs, and I want all of the insert sets. I want to get some collector packs. I have people who spend $300, $400, $500 in a given spot. And so it's just, I try to have kind of literally everything from $500 to $500 price points available. And right now I don't have a shop itself. It's really all direct messaging. Either on Instagram or Facebook. All of my links are at garbagechuteDroids.com. My link tree there has and everything. But I just, so much of it is I try to work with people as well. Like if they're going to buy a whole bunch of stuff, hey, do you want to do this instead? Or I'll give you a little deal. Like I really try to work with everybody. And just, it's just reach out to me. I do have a full-time job. I do have 2 kids. This is kind of my side gig. I try to talk to people as much as possible, and it becomes definitely a whole second job. But it's definitely been interesting. And, I'm happy to explain to anybody what's going on here. I do have a YouTube as well. I was good with that for a few years. I haven't done much lately, but I was trying to even document how I put together my wax packs, literally how I collate and combine and fold and iron it shut and all that. I started having some conversation with artists. So I haven't done much on there in the last few years, but you can even find me at Garbage Chute Droids on YouTube as well.
Adam, not only is it's great to still kind of see you working on this, but also the momentum that has gone with this, but also love seeing like you go out there and like I see you and you know, because you were able to go to a Somerset Patriots game and get a selfie with Dave Merrick, who works for the Patriots as well. And it's really fun when you see, you know, people in the community and people you wouldn't necessarily think are sort of in like, hey, look, we're all card nerds, and it's really fun when people to get together. But Adam, it's incredible to get a chance to talk with you again. I love seeing your stuff, and congratulations on what will be the new set, and I can't wait to see this stuff come out. And I love, you know, giving friends of ours work because I know they enjoy doing it, and it was a real pleasure to talk with you.
Great, thank you very much.
Can I offer you a libation to celebrate the closing of our shared narrative?
Once again, I want to thank Adam for being on the program tonight. It was a pleasure to get a chance to reconnect with him and talk about the latest Garbage Chute Droids. You can go over, like he said, to GarbageChuteDroids.com, to the Linktree, or you can just go on Instagram at Garbage Chute Droids, and there, if you want to get a hold of him, or if you want to see some of the other stuff he's been working on, or the stuff that's coming down the road, you can check him out there. I do recommend it. Great guy, and what a fun one even to listen back through as I was kind of doing my editing. All right, I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out, and we'll talk to you soon.
The Rebel Base Card Podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist, or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.